The fallen warrior. Zerak stood motionless, her four eyes fixed on the distant horizon of Nexus 9, a planet as beautiful as it was deadly. The twin suns cast an eerie purple glow across the crystalline landscape, refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. But Zerak had no time to admire the view. Her mission was clear: eliminate the human diplomat and crush any hope of peace between their species. As the most elite assassin of the Vrakian Empire, Zerak had never questioned an order. Her people valued strength above all else, and she had proven herself time and time again. But something felt off about this mission. The humans, despite their physical weakness, had shown remarkable resilience in the face of the Vrakian onslaught. They fought not just for survival, but for ideals, concepts foreign to her people. Pushing aside her doubts, Zerak adjusted her plasma rifle. The humans' transport would be passing through the valley below in mere minutes. One clean shot, and the war would continue. The Empire would be pleased. But fate had other plans. The first explosion caught her completely off guard. The ground beneath her feet shuddered, sending her sprawling. Before she could regain her footing, a barrage of energy blasts rained down around her. For Achaean weapons fire, she'd recognize it anywhere. Betrayal, she hissed, her mandibles clicking in fury. Her own people had set her up. Zerak's training kicked in. She rolled, narrowly avoiding a blast that would have vaporized her head. Her secondary arms unholstered twin pulse pistols, returning fire even as she sought cover behind a jutting crystal formation. But she was outnumbered and outgunned. A searing pain tore through her side as a shot found its mark. Zerak stumbled, purple blood seeping from the wound. She needed to reach her ship, hidden a few hundred meters away. If she could just. The second explosion obliterated that hope. Through the smoke and debris, Zerak watched her only means of escape transform into a fireball. The Vrakians were thorough. They'd left nothing to chance. With no other option, Zerak flowed into the crystalline forest. The jagged terrain tore at her exoskeleton, each step leaving a trail of blood. But she pushed on, driven by a primal instinct to survive. The sounds of pursuit faded, replaced by the eerie silence of Nexus 9's alien ecosystem. As the adrenaline wore off, the gravity of her situation sank in. Zerak was stranded on a hostile planet, wounded, with no supplies and no way to call for help. And even if she could, who would come? She was a discarded tool, deemed expendable by the very empire she'd served so loyally. The toxic atmosphere of Nexus 9 began to take its toll. Without her ship's protective systems, Zerak's breathing became labored. She needed shelter, and fast. Stumbling through the alien landscape, she spotted a dark opening in a nearby cliff face. A cave. Primitive, but it would have to do. Zerak dragged herself inside, collapsing against the cold stone wall. The cave was mercifully free of the planet's poisonous air, but it offered little else in the way of comfort. As she tended to her wounds with what little medical knowledge she possessed, Zerak's mind raced. Why had she been betrayed? Had she failed the Empire in some way? Or was this always the plan? To use her as bait, drawing out the human diplomat for a larger attack. The not knowing gnawed at her worse than her physical pain. Hours passed, maybe days. Time lost meaning in the perpetual twilight of Nexus 9. Zerak drifted in and out of consciousness, her body weakened by blood loss and lack of sustenance. In her feverish state, memories and doubts intertwined. She recalled her first kill, how proud her clan had been. The rigorous training that had honed her into a living weapon. But now, those memories were tainted. Had it all been for nothing? Was strength truly the only virtue worth pursuing? A sound from outside the cave jolted Zerak back to full alertness. Something was moving out there. Something big. Nexus 9 was home to predators that made even Vrakians wary. Injured and unarmed, Zerak knew she stood little chance against whatever was prowling outside. She pressed herself further into the shadows, every muscle tense. The creature's growls grew louder, accompanied by the sound of massive claws scraping against stone. Zerak's heart pounded. After everything she'd survived, was this how it would end? Devoured by some mindless beast on a forgotten planet. As the creature's massive form blocked the cave entrance, Zerak made a decision. She would not die cowering in the dark. With a primal scream that surprised even herself, she charged forward, ready to meet her fate head-on. What happened next was a blur of fangs, claws, and desperate strikes. Zerak fought with everything she had left, her combat training kicking in despite her weakened state. She landed blows that would have felled lesser beings, but the creature's hide seemed impenetrable. Just as Zerak felt her strength failing, when she was certain the next swipe of those massive claws would end her, something unexpected happened. A brilliant flash of light filled the cave, accompanied by a deafening boom. The creature roared in pain and confusion, reeling back. Zerak blinked, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. A figure stood at the cave entrance, silhouetted against the purple sky. It was holding some kind of weapon, unlike anything in the Varakian arsenal. As her vision cleared, Zerak's heart nearly stopped. It was a human. The human fired again, driving the creature back. With a final roar of frustration, the beast retreated, leaving Zerak alone with her unlikely savior. As the human stepped into the cave, Zerak tensed, ready for a fight. But her body betrayed her, and she collapsed, the last of her strength finally giving out. She expected a killing blow. It's what any Varakian would have done to a helpless enemy. Instead, she felt gentle hands examining her wounds. The human was helping her. It made no sense. "Easy there," a voice said, the words translated by some unseen device. "You're in pretty bad shape, but I think I can help. I'm Alex. What's your name?" Zerak tried to respond, but darkness was creeping in at the edges of her vision. The last thing she saw before losing consciousness was the human's face, concern etched across features so alien yet somehow familiar. As Zerak slipped into unconsciousness, her mind grappled with the impossibility of her situation. She, an elite Varakian assassin, had been saved by a human, the very species she'd been sent to destroy. It defied everything she'd been taught about strength, about the natural order of the galaxy. In her last moments of awareness, a troubling thought surfaced. If the Varakians were wrong about humans, what else might they be wrong about? The darkness took her then, but for the first time since her ordeal began, Zerak didn't fear it. Something had changed. A spark of curiosity, of possibility, had been ignited. And though she didn't know it yet, that spark would grow into a flame that would change not just her life, but the course of two civilizations. As Zerak drifted in the void between life and death, the human called Alex worked tirelessly to save her. Two species, once bitter enemies, now united in the most basic of struggles, the fight for survival. On a forgotten planet, under alien skies, the seeds of understanding were being sown. The story of Zerak and Alex was just beginning, and with it, a new chapter in the history of both their peoples. For in the darkest of times, when all seemed lost, humanity's greatest strength would shine brightest. The capacity for compassion, even in the face of the unknown. An unexpected savior. Alex wiped the sweat from his brow, his eyes never leaving the alien form sprawled on the makeshift bed in his ship's medbay. The past 48 hours had been a whirlwind of adrenaline and split-second decisions, testing every ounce of his training and humanity. As a former combat medic turned xenobiologist, Alex had seen his fair share of strange and dangerous situations, but finding a critically wounded Varakian warrior on a supposedly uninhabited planet, that was a new one, even for him. He checked the vitals displayed on the holographic monitor hovering above the alien. Zerak, she'd managed to tell them before passing out again. Her name was Zerak. It was a start. "How's our patient doing, Aria?" Alex asked, addressing the ship's eye. A soft, feminine voice responded, stable, but still critical. "Her physiology is fascinating, Alex. I've never seen anything quite like it." Alex nodded, a wry smile tugging at his lips. That makes two of us. Any idea when she might regain consciousness? Difficult to say, Araya replied. Her species seems to have remarkable regenerative capabilities. Could be hours, could be days. As if on cue, Zarak stirred. Her four eyes blinked open, unfocused at first, then sharpening with alarming speed. In an instant, she was fully alert, her body tensing for action. Alex raised his hands, palms out. Easy there. You're safe. No one's going to hurt you. Zarek's gaze darted around the medbay, taking in every detail. Her mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation, Alex guessed. When she spoke, her voice was raspy but strong. Where am I? What is this place? You're on my ship, Alex explained calmly. The Curiosity. I found you injured in that cave and brought you here for treatment. How are you feeling? Zarak's eyes narrowed. Why? Why what? Why did you save me? We are enemies. I was sent to. She trailed off, seeming to catch herself. Alex raised an eyebrow. To kill the human diplomat. Yeah, I figured as much. Doesn't change the fact that you needed help. Zarak stared at him, clearly struggling to comprehend his actions. This makes no sense. In your position, a Varakian would have left you to die. Alex finished. Yeah, well, I'm not Varakian. And I'm not a soldier anymore. I'm a scientist. My job is to understand, not to judge. A tense silence fell between them. Alex could almost see the wheels turning in Zarak's mind, trying to reconcile her preconceptions with the reality before her. Finally, she spoke again. I thank you for saving my life. Alex nodded, allowing himself a small smile. You're welcome. Now think you're up for some food. You've been out for a while, and I bet you're starving. As if in response, Zarak's stomach rumbled audibly. Her mandibles clicked in what Alex interpreted as embarrassment. I'll take that as a yes, he chuckled. Araya, can you synthesize something suitable for our guest? Already on it, Alex, the AI responded cheerfully. While they waited for the food, Alex helped Zarak sit up, explaining her injuries and the treatment she'd received. To his surprise, she listened intently, asking detailed questions about human medical technology. You seem quite knowledgeable, Alex observed. Zarak's posture straightened, a hint of pride in her voice. I was the top assassin in the Vrakian Empire. Understanding anatomy is crucial in my line of work. Was. Alex caught the slip. Zarak's expression darkened. They left me to die on that planet, betrayed by my own people. Alex whistled low. That's rough. I'm sorry. Sorry. Zarak tilted her head, confusion evident. Why? You had no part in it. It's a human thing, Alex explained. Empathy. We express sorrow for others' misfortunes, even if we're not responsible. Before Zarak could respond, Araya announced that the food was ready. Alex retrieved a tray of nutrient-rich paste, specially formulated for Vrakian physiology. As Zarak ate, Alex found himself studying her. Despite their fearsome reputation, there was an undeniable grace to Vrakian anatomy. 4 arms, exoskeleton-covered muscle, those fascinating compound eyes. She was a marvel of evolution. You're staring, Zarak observed between bites. Alex felt heat rise to his cheeks. Sorry. Professional curiosity. I've never had the chance to observe a Vrakian up close before. Your species is remarkable. To his surprise, Zarak seemed pleased by the compliment. We are the apex predators of the galaxy, or so I was always taught. And now, Alex probed gently. Zarak set down her spoon, her expression troubled. Now, I am not certain of anything. It was a moment of vulnerability, one Alex hadn't expected. He decided to change the subject. So, want a tour of the ship once you're done eating? It's not much, but it's home. Zarek nodded, seemingly grateful for the distraction. As Alex showed her around the Curiosity, he explained its various systems and his work as a xenobiologist. To his delight, Zarek asked intelligent questions, displaying a curiosity he hadn't anticipated. "This vessel," she mused as they entered the bridge, "it's not a warship." Alex shook his head. "Nope. Pure research vessel. Fast enough to outrun trouble, but no weapons to speak of." Zarek's mandibles clicked in what Alex was beginning to recognize as her version of a frown. "That seems unwise. The galaxy is a dangerous place." "True," Alex agreed. "But I've found that approaching new worlds and species with an open mind tends to create fewer dangerous situations than going in guns blazing." "A naive perspective," Zorak countered, but there was less conviction in her voice than before. As they completed the tour, ending back in the medbay, Alex could see that Zorak was tiring. Her wounds, while healing remarkably fast, had taken a significant toll. "You should rest," he advised. "We can talk more later if you'd like." Zarak nodded, settling back onto the bed. But as Alex turned to leave, she called out, "Alex." He paused at the door. "Yeah. Thank you. Not just for saving me, but for this. For showing me your ship, explaining things. No one has ever." She trailed off, seemingly unsure how to express herself. Alex smiled warmly. "You're welcome, Zorak. Sleep well." As the door slid shut behind him, Alex let out a long breath. It had been a surreal day, to say the least. He made his way to the bridge, collapsing into the captain's chair. "Well, Aria, what do you make of our guest?" he asked the eye. "Fascinating," Aria replied. "Her vital signs indicate high levels of stress and confusion, but also curiosity. I believe your approach is having an effect, Alex." Alex nodded, staring out at the stars visible through the view screen. "Let's hope so, because if we can't find some common ground, this war is going to tear both our species apart." Over the next few days, a cautious routine developed aboard the Curiosity. Zorak's strength returned rapidly, and with it, her natural inquisitiveness. She peppered Alex with questions about human culture, technology, and biology. In turn, Alex found himself learning more about Vrakian society than any human ever had. It wasn't always smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings led to heated arguments more than once. Zarak struggled to comprehend concepts like democracy and individual rights, while Alex was horrified by some aspects of Vrakian social structure. But with each clash, each debate, understanding grew. Zarak began to see the strength in human adaptability and creativity, while Alex gained a new appreciation for the discipline and loyalty that defined Vrakian culture. One evening, as they shared a meal in the ship's small galley, Zarak broached a subject she'd been avoiding. "Alex," she began hesitantly, "what will happen to me when we reach human space?" Alex set down his fork, considering his words carefully. "Honestly, I'm not sure. You're the first Vrakian to ever willingly interact with humans. That makes you, well, pretty valuable from an intelligence standpoint." Zarek's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You mean I would be interrogated? Studied?" "Probably," Alex admitted. "But I give you my word, no one will harm you. And I'll do everything in my power to ensure you're treated fairly." Zarek was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm not sure I can go back to my people, even if that were possible. And I don't think I want to." Alex reached out, hesitating for just a moment before placing his hand on one of Zarak's upper arms. To his surprise, she didn't flinch away. "Whatever happens," he assured her, "you're not alone. We'll figure this out together." Zarak met his gaze, her compound eyes reflecting the soft light of the galley. For the first time since he'd met her, Alex saw something new in those alien eyes. Hope. The moment was shattered by a blaring alarm. Red emergency lights bathed the galley as Aria's voice rang out, urgent and clear. Alex, we have incoming. Multiple Vrakian warships on an intercept course. In an instant, both Alex and Zerak were on their feet, racing for the bridge. As they burst through the door, the view screen lit up with the ominous sight of 3 Vrakian dreadnoughts, their weapons primed and ready. How did they find us? Alex muttered, his hands flying over the controls. Zerak's voice was grim. They weren't looking for me. They're after you, Alex, the human who's been making groundbreaking discoveries in their territory. Alex's eyes widened as the realization hit him. All those worlds he'd studied, the data he'd collected, it had painted a target on his back. Arai, evasive maneuvers, he shouted. Zerak, I need you to. But Zerak was already moving, her 4 arms working in perfect synchronization across the unfamiliar human controls. Rerouting power to the engines and shields, she announced. If we can make it to that asteroid field, we might have a chance. Alex nodded, a grim smile on his face. Well then, let's show them what this little research vessel can do. As the Curiosity surged forward, merrily avoiding the first salvo of Vrakian weaponry, Alex couldn't help but marvel at the strange twist of fate that had brought him and Zerak together. An assassin and a scientist, enemies turned allies, now fighting side by side for survival. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. The universe would never be the same. Worlds collide. The Curiosity buckled under another barrage of Vrakian fire, its shields flickering dangerously. In the cramped cockpit, Alex and Zerak worked in frantic unison, their earlier tensions forgotten in the face of imminent destruction. Arai, status report. Alex shouted over the blare of alarms. The AI's voice remained eerily calm. Shields at 18%. Hull integrity compromised in sections 3 and 4. We cannot sustain another direct hit. Zerak's mandibles clicked rapidly as her 4 arms danced across the control panels. The asteroid field is our only chance. But at this speed, we'll be torn apart. Alex finished grimly. Unless, his eyes lit up with a dangerous idea. Arai, prep the quantum drive. Alex, Arai's tone was as close to concerned as an AI could get. Initiating a quantum jump this close to a gravitational anomaly is extremely risky. The calculations alone. Then it's a good thing we have the galaxy's deadliest assassin on board who just happens to be a mathematical genius. Alex cut in, flashing a wild grin at Zerak. What do you say? Feel like making the impossible possible. For a split second, Zerak stared at him, her compound eyes unreadable. Then, to Alex's amazement, she let out a sound he'd never heard before, a Vrakian laugh. You humans truly are insane, she said, but her tone was one of admiration. I'll need access to your navigation systems and quantum matrices. Arai, give her whatever she needs, Alex commanded, turning his attention back to piloting. Ladies, let's make history. What followed was a symphony of chaos and precision. As Alex weaved the Curiosity through a hail of Vrakian fire and tumbling space debris, Zerak's mind and hands worked at inhuman speeds. She interfaced directly with Arai, feeding the AI calculations faster than any human could process. Jump calculations complete, Arai announced just as another blast rocked the ship. But Alex, even if this works, we have no way of knowing where we'll end up. Anywhere's better than here, Alex gritted out, his knuckles white on the controls. Zerak. She met his gaze, and in that moment, a wordless understanding passed between them. Whatever happened next, they were in this together. Do it, they said in unison. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a flash of impossible light and a sensation like being turned inside out, the Curiosity vanished, leaving behind 3 very confused and angry Vrakian warships. When reality reasserted itself, Alex found himself sprawled on the floor of the cockpit, every nerve ending screaming in protest. Through blurry vision, he saw Zarak pulling herself up, looking about as disoriented as he felt. "Aria," he croaked. "Where are we?" There was a worrying pause before the AI responded. "I'm not entirely sure, Alex. Our position doesn't match any known star charts, but we appear to be in orbit around an M-class planet with a breathable atmosphere." Alex managed to drag himself back into his chair, staring in awe at the view screen. A pristine world of swirling blue oceans and lush continents filled their view. "It's beautiful," Zarak whispered, her usual stoicism forgotten in the face of this new wonder. Alex nodded, a slow smile spreading across his face. "And completely unknown to either of our peoples. Zarak, I think we just made the discovery of a lifetime." As the adrenaline of their escape faded, the reality of their situation sank in. They were lost, their ship damaged, with no way to contact either of their civilizations. But as Alex looked at Zarak, he saw not despair, but a reflection of his own excitement. "So, shinobiologist," Zarak said, her mandibles clicking in what Alex now recognized as amusement, "shall we explore this new world of yours?" Alex grinned. "I thought you'd never ask." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of discovery and cooperation. As they worked to repair the Curiosity, Alex and Zarak took turns venturing out to explore their temporary home. Each excursion brought new marvels, bizarre flora that seemed to defy the laws of physics, fauna that blurred the line between plant and animal. But the greatest discovery was happening aboard the ship. Forced to work together for survival, Alex and Zarak found their preconceptions about each other's species crumbling away. One evening, as they sat cataloging the day's specimens, Zarak broached a subject that had been weighing on her mind. "Alex," she began hesitantly, "there's something I don't understand about humans." He looked up from his microscope, curious. "Just one thing." Zarak clicked her mandibles in what Alex now knew was her version of an eye roll. "Many things, but this one, it troubles me. Why do you value weakness?" Alex frowned. "What do you mean?" "Your society," Zarak explained. "It protects the sick, the old, the unfit. In Vrakian culture, this would be seen as a waste of resources, a dilution of our strength. Yet humans seem to thrive because of it, not in spite of it. I don't understand." Alex was quiet for a long moment, considering his words carefully. "Zarak, what's the most important thing for the survival of a species?" "Strength," she answered without hesitation. "The ability to overcome all obstacles, to defeat any enemy." "See, that's where we differ," Alex said gently. "Humans believe the most important thing is adaptability. The ability to change, to learn, to see things from new perspectives. And for that, we need diversity. Every life, every experience, adds to our collective knowledge and resilience." Zarak's eyes narrowed in concentration. "But surely some lives are more valuable than others." "In terms of immediate practical skills, maybe," Alex conceded. "But potential, inspiration, the ripple effects of kindness and compassion, those are harder to measure, but no less real or important." He could see Zarak struggling with the concept, her entire worldview being challenged. But instead of dismissing his words, she asked more questions, genuinely trying to understand. Their conversation lasted deep into the night, touching on philosophy, ethics, and the very nature of civilization. By the time exhaustion finally claimed them, something had shifted between them. A deeper understanding, a growing respect. As the days turned to weeks, their unlikely partnership flourished. Zarak's analytical mind and physical prowess complemented Alex's creativity and scientific knowledge perfectly. Together, they made breakthroughs that neither could have achieved alone. But their idyllic existence couldn't last forever. The reminder came in the form of a distress signal, picked up by the newly repaired long-range sensors. "It's a human frequency," Aria announced, her tone somber. "A colony ship. They're under attack by Vrakian forces. The weight of reality came crashing back down. Alex and Zarek exchanged a long look, the unspoken question hanging between them. What now? It was Zarek who broke the silence. We have to help them. Alex blinked in surprise. We? Zarek, these are your people attacking. No, she cut him off firmly. The Verakians who left me to die, who would destroy innocent lives for the sake of conquest. They are not my people. Not anymore. Her 4 eyes met his, filled with a determination that took his breath away. You showed me a better way, Alex, a strength born not from domination, but from cooperation. If there's a chance to stop this war, to build something new between our species, we have to take it. Alex felt a swell of emotion he couldn't quite name. Pride, admiration, something more. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task at hand. All right then, he said, sliding into the pilot's seat. Araya, plot a course to the distress signal. Zarek, I hope you remember how to work those weapon systems we jury-rigged. Her mandibles clicked in a fierce grin. Oh, I remember. Let's show both our species what we can accomplish together. As the Curiosity leaped into quantum space, Alex couldn't help but marvel at the strange twists of fate that had led to this moment. An assassin and a scientist, once sworn enemies, now united in a desperate bid to forge peace between their worlds. The journey to the embattled colony ship was tense. Alex and Zarek spent the time strategizing, pushing the Curiosity's systems to their limits in preparation for the coming fight. But there were quieter moments too. Shared meals, swapped stories, and a growing sense of camaraderie that transcended their biological differences. When they finally dropped out of quantum space, the scene before them was chaos. The massive colony ship, easily 100 times the size of the Curiosity, was limping through an asteroid field, its hull scarred by weapons fire. 3 Verakian warships circled it like predators toying with wounded prey. ARIA, open a channel to the colony ship, Alex commanded, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. A frantic human voice crackled over the comms. Unknown vessel, please help. We have thousands of civilians on board, including children. Our shields are failing, we can't. This is Dr. Alexander Chen of the research vessel Curiosity, Alex cut in. We're here to help. Can you make it to the far side of that large asteroid at bearing 047? There was a moment of confused silence before the voice responded. Yes, I think so. But what can one small ship do against? Trust me, Alex said firmly. Get your people to safety. We'll handle the rest. He cut the transmission, turning to Zarek. Ready for this? She nodded, her posture radiating a predatory focus that sent a shiver down Alex's spine. Born ready, as you humans say. What followed was a dance of impossible precision and daring. The Curiosity, small and nimble, darted between the massive Verakian ships. Zarek's intimate knowledge of their weak points, combined with the element of surprise, allowed them to land crippling blows before the enemy could properly react. Alex's piloting was nothing short of miraculous, weaving through debris fields and weapons fire with equal ease. Aria's processors were pushed to their limits, calculating trajectories and power distributions faster than any organic mind could comprehend. But it was the seamless cooperation between human and Verakian that truly turned the tide. Alex and Zarek moved as one, anticipating each other's actions, covering weaknesses, amplifying strengths. It was a display of teamwork that would have been unthinkable mere weeks ago. As the last Verakian ship limped away, its engines sputtering and weapons offline, a cheer erupted over the comms. The colony ship was safe, its passengers saved from a fate worse than death. But Alex and Zarek had no time to celebrate. As the adrenaline faded, the full weight of what they'd done settled in. They had just attacked Verakian military vessels, saving the human colony ship. There would be consequences. Alex, Zarek's voice was uncharacteristically subdued. What happens now? He met her gaze, seeing his own mix of uncertainty and hope reflected in her alien eyes. I don't know, he admitted. But whatever comes next, we face it together. Deal? Zerac's mandibles clicked in what Alex now recognized as a smile. Deal. As the Curiosity docked with the colony ship, neither of them could shake the feeling that they stood on the precipice of something monumental. Two individuals from warring species, united by circumstance and choice, now held the potential to reshape the future of both their civilizations. The real challenge, they knew, was only beginning. But as they prepared to face the questions, the accusations, and the opportunities that awaited them, one thing was certain. The universe would never be the same. The hunt begins. The aftermath of the rescue was a whirlwind of debriefings, medical checkups, and barely contained chaos. Alex and Zerac found themselves at the center of a storm of attention, their unlikely partnership the subject of equal parts wonder and suspicion. Captain Elena Reyes of the colony ship Horizon stood before them in the makeshift war room, her expression a mix of gratitude and wariness. Dr. Chen, on behalf of everyone aboard this ship, I thank you for your timely intervention. But I think it's time we addressed the Verakian in the room. Her gaze shifted to Zerac, who stood tall despite the palpable tension. With all due respect, Captain, Alex began, but Zerac placed a hand on his arm, silencing him. You are right to be cautious, Zerac said, her voice steady. Not long ago, I would have been your enemy. But circumstances have changed. I stand before you now not as a Verakian warrior, but as an individual seeking a new path. Captain Rice's eyebrows rose. A defector. An ally, Alex corrected firmly. One who just risked everything to save thousands of human lives. The captain nodded slowly, considering their words. Be that as it may, we're not out of danger yet. Those Verakian ships may have retreated, but they'll be back, with reinforcements. We need a plan. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the ship. A young officer burst into the room, his face pale. Captain, long-range sensors have detected a massive Verakian fleet on an intercept course. ETA 6 hours. The room erupted into frantic activity, but Alex's focus narrowed to Zerac. Her posture had stiffened, her four eyes wide with a mixture of fear and resolve. Zerac, he asked softly, what are you thinking? She turned to him, her mandibles clicking rapidly, a sign of deep agitation. They're not just coming for the humans, Alex. They're coming for me. A Verakian allying with humans. It's unprecedented, dangerous. They'll stop at nothing to eliminate what they see as a threat to their way of life. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He'd known their actions would have consequences, but the reality of it was only now sinking in. What do we do? Zerac's eyes narrowed with determination. We fight, but not in the way they expect. Over the next hour, Alex and Zerac laid out a daring plan. It was risky, borderline insane, but it played to their unique strengths. Captain Rice listened with growing amazement as the human scientist and Verakian ex-assassin outlined a strategy that could not only save the Horizon, but potentially change the course of the war. This is madness, the captain said when they finished. But given our options, madness might be exactly what we need. You have my authorization. Whatever you need, it's yours. As they left the war room to begin preparations, Alex pulled Zerac aside. Are you sure about this? He asked, searching her alien features for any sign of doubt. Once we do this, there's no going back. Your people. My people, Zerac interrupted, her voice thick with emotion, left me to die on a desolate planet. You, a human, supposedly my enemy, saved me, showed me kindness, opened my eyes to new possibilities. She placed two of her hands on Alex's shoulders, the gesture surprisingly gentle. I've made my choice, Alex. Whatever happens, we face it together. Alex nodded, a lump forming in his throat. Together, he agreed. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The Curiosity was overhauled, its systems pushed to the absolute limit. Zarak worked tirelessly, integrating Vrakian tech scavenged from the defeated warships with the human systems. The result was a hybrid vessel unlike anything either species had ever created. Meanwhile, Alex coordinated with the Horizon's crew, preparing them for their role in the audacious plan. It would require precise timing, unwavering nerve, and more than a little luck. But if it worked. As the deadline approached, Alex found Zarak in a quiet corner of the Curiosity, her eyes closed in what he recognized as a Vrakian meditation stance. "Hey," he said softly, not wanting to startle her. "How are you holding up?" Zarak's eyes opened, focusing on him with an intensity that still took his breath away. "I am conflicted," she admitted. "Part of me still sees what we're about to do as a betrayal of everything I was raised to believe. But a larger part." She trailed off, seemingly struggling to find the words. Alex waited patiently, giving her the space to sort through her thoughts. "A larger part of me feels more alive, more purposeful than I ever have before," Zarak finally continued. "The Vrakian way values strength above all else, but I'm beginning to understand that there are many forms of strength. What we're doing, trying to end this war, to forge a new understanding between our peoples, that takes a kind of strength I never knew existed." Alex felt a swell of pride and something deeper, something he wasn't quite ready to name. "Zarak, He was cut off by Aria's voice, unusually urgent. "Alex, Zarak, the Vrakian fleet has arrived. They're hailing the horizon." They shared a look, volumes communicated in that single glance. It was time. Back on the horizon's bridge, tension crackled in the air as the main view screen flickered to life. The image that appeared sent a collective gasp through the human crew. A Vrakian war overseer, his massive form dwarfing his subordinates, glared out at them with cold, calculating eyes. "I am War Overseer Krazak of the Vrakian Empire." The alien's voice boomed, translated by the ship's computers. "You harbor a traitor to our people. Surrender the one called Zarak, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will take great pleasure in prolonging your suffering." Captain Rice stood tall, her voice steady as she replied. "War Overseer, we have no quarrel with your people. We are a civilian vessel, carrying families, seeking the new home. Surely there's room for negotiation." "Negotiation." Krazak's laughter was like grinding stone. "Humans truly are pathetic. There is no negotiation. There is only the strong and the weak. You will learn your place in the natural order, or you will be eradicated." Before the captain could respond, Zarak stepped forward, her presence commanding instant attention. "War Overseer Krazak," she said, her voice ringing with authority. "I am the one you seek, but I will not be surrendering. Instead, I challenge you, ship to ship, warrior to warrior. Or are you afraid to face one you deem a traitor in honorable combat?" A hush fell over both bridges. Alex held his breath, knowing everything hinged on this moment. The plan relied on the Vrakians' obsession with strength and honor, a cultural weakness Zarak was expertly exploiting. Krazak's eyes narrowed, his mandibles clicking furiously. "You dare challenge me? Very well, Zarak. I will take great pleasure in crushing you myself. Prepare your vessel. When this is over, I will mount your head on my ship as a warning to all who would defy the Empire." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Captain Rice turned to Alex and Zarak, her expression a mix of awe and concern. "I hope you know what you're doing." Alex managed a confident smile. "So do we, Captain. So do we." As they made their way back to the Curiosity, Alex couldn't shake a growing sense of dread. He grabbed Zarak's arm, pulling her to a stop just before they entered the airlock. "Zarak, wait," he said, his voice low and urgent. "Are you absolutely sure about this? Krazak's ship, it's massive. The firepower alone—" "Alex," Zarak interrupted gently, placing one of her hands over his. "Do you trust me?" He met her gaze, those alien eyes now so familiar, so dear to him. "With my life," he answered without hesitation. "Then trust in this," she said. "What we've built together, it's more than just a ship. It's a symbol of what's possible when our peoples work together. We may be outgunned, but we have something Krazak can't even comprehend." Alex nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. "All right then, let's go make history." As the Curiosity detached from the horizon, Alex couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. A human and a Vrakian, once bitter enemies, now united in a desperate bid to forge peace between their worlds. Whatever happened next, he knew their actions today would ripple across the galaxy for generations to come. The vastness of space stretched before them, Krazak's enormous battleship looming like a malevolent star. Alex's hands danced across the controls, guiding the Curiosity into position. Beside him, Zarak's 4 arms worked in perfect synchronization, managing weapons, shields, and the experimental systems they'd cobbled together. "Ready?" Alex asked, a hint of his old cockiness creeping into his voice. Zarak's mandibles clicked in what he now recognized as her version of a grin. "Born ready, as you humans say." With a shared nod, they accelerated towards their destiny, the fate of 2 civilizations hanging in the balance. The battle that followed would be spoken of in hushed whispers and grand epics for centuries to come. The tiny Curiosity darted and weaved through a storm of weapons fire that could have vaporized a small moon. Zarak's intimate knowledge of Vrakian tactics, combined with Alex's unpredictable human ingenuity, allowed them to strike at weak points no one else could have exploited. But it wasn't just their piloting skills or tactical brilliance that turned the tide. It was the seamless fusion of human and Vrakian technology, the perfect blend of 2 vastly different approaches to science and warfare. Systems that should never have worked together sang in harmony, creating effects that defied the laws of physics as either species understood them. As the battle raged on, something extraordinary began to happen. The other Vrakian ships, expecting an easy victory, found themselves hesitating. The sight of one of their own fighting alongside a human, holding their own against impossible odds, sparked something long dormant in the Vrakian psyche: doubt. Aboard the horizon, humans watched in awe as the tiny ship danced through the void, a David facing down an armada of Goliaths. Cheers erupted with each successful maneuver, each impossible shot landed. But the real change was happening on the Vrakian ships. Gunners hesitated to fire. Warriors whispered to each other in confused awe. If a human and a Vrakian could work together so effectively, could there be more to these aliens than they had been led to believe? In the Curiosity's cockpit, Alex and Zarak moved as one, their differences forgotten in the heat of battle. They were no longer human and Vrakian. They were simply 2 beings fighting for a future they both believed in. As Krazak's flagship began to falter, its mighty weapons silenced one by one, Alex allowed himself a moment of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could pull this off. But war is never without casualties. A lucky shot from one of the supporting Vrakian cruisers slipped through their defenses, hitting the Curiosity's starboard engine. Alarms blared as the ship spun wildly, systems failing across the board. "Alex," Zarak's voice was tight with concern. "We're losing power. One more hit like that and—" "I know." Alex cut her off, his mind racing. "We need to end this now. Araria, divert all remaining power to the main cannon. Zarak, can you get us lined up for a shot at Krazak's bridge?" Understanding dawned in Zarak's eyes. It was a desperate gamble, but it was all they had left. "On it," she said, her hands flying across the controls. As the Curiosity limped into position, Krazak's voice boomed across the comm channels. "Is this the best you can offer, traitor? Pathetic. I will crush you and your human pet, and then I will destroy every last one of these weaklings you sought to protect." Alex's jaw clenched, but before he could respond, Zarak's voice rang out, clear and defiant. "You are wrong, Krazak. About humans, about strength, about everything. True strength isn't about domination or fear. It's about cooperation, adaptation, seeing the value in those different from yourself. That is why you will lose today, and why the Vrakian Empire will fall if it doesn't learn to change. With those words hanging in the air, Zerak nodded to Alex. Now, Alex slammed his hand down on the firing control, channeling every last ounce of the Curiosity's power into one final, desperate shot. The beam that erupted from their makeshift cannon was like nothing either species had ever seen, a swirling vortex of energy, human and Vrakian technologies amplifying each other beyond all known limits. It struck Krazak's ship dead center, punching through shields and armor as if they were tissue paper. For a moment, the enormous vessel seemed to hang suspended in space, disbelief radiating from every deck. Then, with a silent flash that outshone the nearby sun, Krazak's flagship erupted into a spectacular fireball. In the stunned silence that followed, Alex and Zerak clung to each other, hardly daring to believe what they'd just accomplished. Around them, the Curiosity's systems sputtered and died, the noble little ship having given its all in that final, universe-altering shot. As the horizon moved to retrieve them, the remaining Vrakian fleet hung motionless in space. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they faced a force they didn't know how to fight, doubt in the very foundations of their beliefs. Alex turned to Zerak, seeing his own mix of exhaustion, disbelief, and wild hope mirrored in her alien features. "So," he said, a grin tugging at his lips despite everything, "what do we do for an encore?" Zerak's mandibles clicked in amusement, but her eyes were serious as she replied, "We build something new, Alex. Together." As the horizon's tractor beam enveloped them, Alex knew that the real work was just beginning. But looking at Zerak, feeling the weight of what they'd accomplished together, he couldn't help but feel that anything was possible. The universe, it seemed, would never be the same again. And that, both of them realized, was exactly what it needed. Triumph of unity. The weeks following the battle were a whirlwind of diplomacy, tense negotiations, and cautious hope. The destruction of War Overseer Krazak's flagship had sent shockwaves through both human and Vrakian societies. The impossible had happened. A human and a Vrakian working together had defeated one of the mightiest warships in the galaxy. Alex and Zerak found themselves at the center of it all, reluctant symbols of a new potential future. They were shuttled from one high-level meeting to another, recounting their story, explaining the hybrid technology they'd created, and advocating for peace. It wasn't easy. Centuries of conflict and mistrust couldn't be erased overnight. But slowly, incrementally, progress was made. 3 months after the battle, Alex stood before the United Earth Council, Zerak by his side. The chamber was packed, with delegates from every human colony world in attendance. Hovering cameras broadcast the proceedings to billions across human space. "Distinguished members of the council," Alex began, his voice steady despite his nerves, "I stand before you today, not just as a scientist, but as someone who has seen firsthand the potential for cooperation between our species. The Vrakians are not the mindless conquerors we've believed them to be. They are a complex, intelligent species capable of growth and change." He gestured to Zerak, who stepped forward. There was an audible intake of breath from the assembly. For many, this was their first time seeing a Vrakian up close. "Esteemed humans," Zerak's translated voice rang out, her 4 eyes scanning the crowd. "I was once your enemy. I was raised to believe that strength came only through domination, that other species were inferior and fit only for conquest. But through my experiences with Alex and other humans, I have learned that true strength lies in diversity, in cooperation, in seeing value in those different from ourselves." As Zerak spoke, Alex couldn't help but marvel at how far she'd come. The cold, calculating assassin he'd first encountered was gone, replaced by a thoughtful, passionate individual dedicated to forging a new path. "The technology we created together," Zerak continued, is proof of what we can achieve when we combine our strengths rather than wasting energy fighting each other. Imagine a future where Verdakian bioengineering meshes with human creativity, where our warriors stand alongside yours to explore the galaxy rather than conquer it. A murmur ran through the crowd. It was a compelling vision, but centuries of conflict were not easily forgotten. One of the counselors, an older woman with steel-gray hair, leaned forward. "This is all very inspiring," she said, her tone skeptical. "But how can we trust that the Vrakian Empire as a whole shares your enlightened view? How do we know this isn't some elaborate trick?" Before Alex could respond, a new voice boomed through the chamber. "Perhaps I can answer that, counselor." All eyes turned to the main entrance. Standing there, flanked by a mix of human and Vrakian guards, was an imposing figure that made even Zorak look small by comparison. Alex's eyes widened in recognition. "High Imperator Zoltark," he whispered to Zorak, who nodded, her posture tense. The leader of the Vrakian Empire strode into the chamber, his presence commanding instant attention. He stopped before the council, inclining his head in a gesture that, while slight, spoke volumes. Never before had a Vrakian leader shown deference to any other species. "Esteemed members of the Human Council," Zoltark's deep voice resonated through the room. "I come before you not as a conqueror, but as a leader humbled by recent events. The actions of Zorak and Alexander Chen have forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about our society, our beliefs, and our place in the galaxy." A hushed silence fell over the assembly as Zoltark continued. "For too long, we have equated strength with domination, progress with conquest. We believed our way was the only way. But the battle you've all heard about, a tiny ship crewed by a human and a Vrakian defeating our mightiest warship, has shaken us to our core." Zoltark turned, his gaze sweeping across the chamber before settling on Alex and Zorak. "These two have shown us a different kind of strength, a strength born of cooperation, of embracing differences rather than fearing them. It is a strength we wish to learn." The High Imperator then did something unprecedented. He lowered himself to one knee, bowing his head. "On behalf of the Vrakian Empire, I extend a formal apology for the suffering we have caused, and I humbly request the opportunity to forge a new relationship between our peoples, not as conqueror and conquered, but as equals, as partners in exploring the vast mysteries of our universe." The chamber erupted into chaos. Counselors shouted questions, delegates conferred frantically with their aides. Through it all, Alex and Zorak stood side by side, hardly daring to believe what they were witnessing. It took several minutes for order to be restored. When it was, the council president, a dignified woman with dark skin and piercing eyes, addressed Zoltark. "High Imperator, your words are unexpected, but not unwelcome. However, you must understand our caution. How can we be certain of your sincerity?" Zoltark rose, nodding in understanding. "A fair question. Words alone are not enough. That is why I have come with a proposal." He gestured, and one of his aides stepped forward, presenting a data pad to the council president. "What you hold in your hands," Zoltark explained, "is the schematics for our quantum drive technology. We offer this freely, as a gesture of good faith. Furthermore, we propose a joint scientific mission, human and Vrakian scientists working together to explore the farthest reaches of the galaxy." The council president's eyes widened as she scanned the datapad. The quantum drive was the cornerstone of Vrakian technological superiority. Giving it away was an unprecedented act of trust. "This is most generous," she said carefully. "The council will need time to discuss and verify this information, but it is certainly a strong starting point for negotiations." As the formal proceedings continued, Alex felt a gentle touch on his arm. He turned to find Zorak looking at him, her alien features somehow conveying a very human mix of hope and uncertainty. "Do you think it will work?" she asked softly. "Can our peoples really move past centuries of conflict?" Alex took her hand in his, marveling at how natural the gesture felt now. "I don't know," he admitted, But look at us, Zarak. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be standing here, holding hands with a Vrakian, advocating for peace, I'd have thought you were crazy. We've already achieved the impossible. Why stop now? Zarak's mandibles clicked in what Alex now recognized as her version of a smile. Ever the optimist, she said, but her tone was fond. As the council session adjourned for deliberations, Alex and Zarak found themselves surrounded by a mix of human and Vrakian officials, all eager to speak with the duo who had changed the course of galactic history. Among them was Captain Alina Reyes of the Horizon, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I don't know how you two pulled it off," she said, shaking her head in amazement. "But you've given us all hope. Whatever happens next, know that you've made a difference." The next few days were a blur of meetings, interviews, and tense waiting. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the council reconvened to announce their decision. The council president stood, her expression solemn but with a hint of something Alex dared to interpret as optimism. After careful deliberation and verification of the information provided by High Imperator Zoltark, the United Earth Council has decided to accept the Vrakian Empire's offer of peace and cooperation. A collective gasp went through the chamber, followed by a wave of murmurs. The president raised her hand for silence before continuing. "This decision was not made lightly. We are acutely aware of the pain and suffering caused by centuries of conflict, but we are also aware of the potential benefits of peace. The combined knowledge and resources of our two species could usher in an unprecedented era of scientific discovery and exploration." She turned to where Alex and Zarak stood. "Dr. Chen, Zarak, please step forward." Exchanging a nervous glance, they approached the council podium. "Your actions have opened a door we never thought possible," the president said, her voice warm. "In recognition of your service to both our peoples, and to underscore our commitment to this new era of cooperation, we have a proposal." She gestured, and a holographic display flickered to life, showing the schematics of a massive ship unlike anything Alex had ever seen. "This," the president explained, "is the Harmony, a joint human-Vrakian deep space exploration vessel, twice the size of our largest ships, equipped with technology from both our species. Its mission will be to journey beyond the borders of known space, seeking out new life and new civilizations." Alex's breath caught in his throat as he realized what she was saying. Besides him, he felt Zarak stiffen in anticipation. "We would like you both to lead this mission," the president finished. "As co-captains of the Harmony, you would serve as living symbols of what our peoples can achieve together." For a moment, Alex couldn't speak. He turned to Zarak, seeing his own mix of shock, excitement, and lingering doubt reflected in her alien eyes. "What do you think?" he asked softly. "Ready for another adventure?" Zarak's mandibles clicked rapidly, her equivalent of a grin. "With you by my side. Always." They turned back to the president, standing tall and proud. "We accept," they said in unison. The chamber erupted in applause. As Alex looked out over the sea of faces, human and Vrakian alike, he felt a swell of emotion he couldn't quite name. Pride, certainly. Hope, without a doubt. But also a profound sense of rightness, as if this was always where he was meant to be. In the months that followed, as the Harmony was constructed in orbit around Earth, Alex and Zarak threw themselves into preparations for their mission. There were setbacks, of course. Centuries of mistrust didn't vanish overnight. But with each challenge overcome, each compromise reached, the bonds between their peoples grew stronger. Finally, the day of launch arrived. As Alex and Zarak stood on the bridge of the Harmony, surrounded by a crew of humans and Vrakians working in perfect synchronization, they shared a quiet moment. "Nervous?" Alex asked, a hint of his old teasing tone in his voice. Zarak's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, her species equivalent of an eye roll. "Vrakians don't get nervous," she retorted. But then her tone softened. "But if we did, I'm glad you're here with me." Alex reached out, taking one of her hands in his. "No place I'd rather be." As the final launch countdown began, Alex thought back to that day on Nexus 9, when he'd found a wounded Vrakian assassin in a cave. If someone had told him then where that moment would lead, to peace between their species, to the grandest expedition in galactic history, to the profound connection he now shared with Zorak, he would never have believed it. But that, he realized, was the beauty of the universe. It was full of endless possibilities, of wonders beyond imagination. And now, thanks to the unlikely partnership forged between a human scientist and a Vrakian warrior, two great civilizations were united in exploring those wonders together. As the Harmony's engines roared to life, propelling them towards the unknown, Alex squeezed Zorak's hand. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever marvels or dangers they might encounter, they would face them as they had faced everything else since that fateful day, together. The stars beckoned, and a new chapter in galactic history began.